burlesque for complete beginners course with us today. So what I want to do is just give you a quick insight into what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be learning, and some props that you might want to add in to get the most out of the experience. So we are going to be looking at doing some power poses, okay? We're going to be looking at some core foundation of movements that we would use in the world of burlesque, sort of, you know, from a performance point of view, from stage presence to routines and things like that, okay? We're going to be looking at some prop removals, yeah? So that's when the fun really begins. We're going to be looking at the way we move and the way that we sort of take ourselves round, either in a performance point of view and just gliding around the room. And then once you've completed this course, you know, you will have the basic concepts of burlesque, and then you could go on and do some of our routines, you could do some of our other workshops, you can progress even further. You may even feel like you want to come and do some instructor training and become an instructor with us. The world is your oyster, as they say, okay? So, first of all, before we get started, let me just give you an insight into some of the props I'm going to be using, so that if you need to take a break and get yourself some props before we move on, you can do so, or you can get started with the course, get the props ordered in the process, and then you can come back and join me again when they've arrived. So, when we start to look at the prop peeling, we're going to be using long gloves, okay? Now I don't recommend fishnet type style gloves, and lace can be a little bit tricky, especially if you've got any sort of wedding bands on and things like that. So generally a full glove is better, but you will need some long gloves that come up to your elbow. You'll need some stockings, some hold-ups. Now these can be with or without the suspender belt, okay? So today I'm not going to use the belt, but I will give you an inkling in how you can work if you have got a suspender belt attached to them, so I'll add that in as well. But you'll need some stockings or some hold-ups, and again, for what we're going to be doing today, I don't recommend fishnet versions, okay? Try and go for a full material. You're going to need a chair, all right? Just something that you can sit on and move around, okay? It hasn't got to be anything extravagant or too fancy. If it's got a lower back, that does help. If the back's really high on it, like if you're using your dining room chair, then these can cause a few sort of complications and restrictions, but we can work with that. But generally, if you've got a chair that's got a low back on it, that would be helpful. And then to help with sort of the beginning, so the movement, the power posing, the audience, you know, engagement and presence, we're also going to be working with a boa. Now, obviously I'm very blessed, I've got my luxury boa here. Some people are allergic to the feathers in the boas, okay? So get something that's going to work for you. Ideally it wants to be sort of 2 meters long, minimum, you know, 1.50 meters. But if you can get 2 meters, great stuff. Don't have to go with a boa. You could use a winter scarf, yeah? But what's really important is you work with something that's not going to irritate you and start, you know, bringing you out in rashes and things like that. You need a little bit of space, okay? And if you can, it might not be something you can do straight away. You might sort of get started and then come back to them. But if you can, a pair of heels, yeah? Because certainly when we're moving, what we're trying to do is make ourselves look like we're not shopping at our local supermarket, and that we're actually moving with grace and poise and presence and purpose, okay? And sometimes, certainly, you know, I speak for myself here, I will walk very differently when I've got a pair of heels on than if I've got no shoes on or something like trainers, okay? So, just to quickly recap them, we're going to start without anything, And then as we continue on through the course, we're going to start bringing in the props. So hopefully some heels, you know, a boa or a scarf or a garment of some sort that you can wrap around you, ideally about 2 meters long. Chair to work with and move around. Hold ups, yeah, stockings, with or without a suspender belt, and some long gloves, all right? And the way we're going to do this session is we're going to break it down as individuals, yeah? So we're going to do sort of, that bit will just be the gloves, that bit will be just the stockings. Shall we get started? Right, so this little module here is going to be some power poses and some kind of core foundations of movement, all right? And these are a great thing to get warmed up with, get started, get your body going. So when we stand, what we very rarely do is stand with just our legs together and our hands sort of on our hips or our hands down by our side. It is ever so rare that we will do that, okay? First of all, we never place our hands on our hips because what that does is that sort of rounds off our shoulders and brings us into a bit of a slouch mode, okay? Instead, what we do is we take our hands from our hips up to our rib cage. And by bringing ourselves into our rib cage, what we instantly do is bring our shoulders back just a little bit more and make ourselves just a little bit more lifted, poised and presentable, okay? And you can have a play around that, don't have to take my word for it, see for yourself, yeah? So place your hands on your hips and, you know, maybe take a picture of yourself, see how your body posture is, and then just simply slide those hands up to the rib cage and see the difference, okay? So that's your first tip, how you hold your body and where you place your hands. So we're here, yeah, in just what we call resting position, hands on the rib cage. Again, we need to think about our legs, okay? You know, slouch there, slouch. Yeah, so we need to be up tall through our body. We've just pulled our body up. What you might like to do is bring the knee across. So you'll have your back leg just nice and steady, nice and straight, and then your front leg, as you're facing forward or as you're addressing people, you'll kind of just slightly bring it over and bring yourself up to a standing position. And that just gives you a really nice outline and presentation rather than just be stood there like that. Yeah? Now, sometimes with these little quirks of positions, we can get a little bit wobbly. So sometimes having the feet together, especially if we've got heels on, doesn't sit too well. We need a bit of practice with that. So what you can do is you can take the leg out to a point. You can take yourself and just over the shoulder, looking forward, yeah? Or when you're addressing people, or you're just casually standing, you're trying to create some presence, but a nice presence, you can just pop the leg out to the side, yeah? So that's another thing. Legs out to the side, lift up through the core, and really hold yourself in that lifted body position. The other thing you can do is turn your feet out slightly. So, having one leg slightly turned out, so I'm going to use the back leg. Having my back leg slightly turned out and my front leg slightly turned out, so then I come through and I've got created a different position again. Yeah? So I'm not just standing there like that. Okay? I've created a bit of presence about myself. So I've got my back leg with my toes slightly turned out. My front leg comes in to meet, okay? And then I still carry myself nice and high, but both my feet are flat on the ground. Whereas with this one, and I'm over, my heel was slightly lifted. So if I was a little bit unbalanced, yeah, that increases that potential. With here, both feet are flat on the ground. Okay? So, first of all, like I say, just have a little practice with standing and holding yourself. You're holding presence, okay? So, have a little go with the hands on the waist and lift up to the rib cage. Then have a little go with standing with your leg positions, yeah? So take yourself from here to take yourself slightly turned out at the back, slightly turned across at the front, and lift up and have your leg over slightly. Then you could transition that, come back to the front, take the leg out to the side. You can then bring that back in a bit of a close, yeah? Put both feet down and bring yourself in another stance again, yeah? And these are really good things if you're taking photos as well, because if you can soften your gaze, so when you're holding yourself in that position, you can create another look in itself. So there you go, that's your first module, all right? Your first module, getting yourself in a nice, strong body position, and we call those the holding positions. Okay, let's move on to your next little module. So here we're going to look at some power poses, all right? So this is just a little bit more than just standing there with sort of hands down on the rib cage. We're now going to kind of go into a bit more of what I call a showgirl, showman presence, all right? So the first one we're going to look at is a single showgirl. Now I say showgirl, but please don't anybody be offended or anything like that. It just naturally comes out. But I do mean it's applicable for everybody, okay? So the first one we're going to go for is the single. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of get your legs in position first. So thinking about what we just learned in the previous module, you might go for sort of like a knee across, you might go for a leg out, yeah? But what you're going to do is take your arms and you're going to place one on the rib cage and you're going to just bring the other arm up and over, okay? And it works both ways. So you might try it first with your front arm coming up. Single show, yeah? Or the back arm. What you're looking to do is kind of get your gaze to follow the arm that's lifted. So if you're going around the other way, hand on the rib cage, yeah? You'll follow the hand down, up, and back. Now once you start creating that arm movement, you may find that you need to adjust your stance. So you may find that actually the movement kind of creates you to wobble a little bit. So you might need to just take that stance and spread it out a little bit. So you might put yourself back in that position, wider stance, hand on the rib cage, and then you'll follow the arm through and you'll come up. Or likewise, the other way round, in your split stance, you'll follow the arm through, okay? And you'll just make sure your gaze follows the movement of the arm and then it kind of stays looking at your bicep. You always have to think about audience engagement and stage presence and things like that, but I would say at this level, probably none of you are thinking about rushing out and signing up to any shows or performances or anything right now, okay? So at the minute we're just building the core foundations and the core movements. So this is what we call the single showgirl, showperson. All right, so get your stance in whatever position that looks like. One hand on the rib cage, the other hand, make it a movement, yeah? Bring it from the side of your body, sweep it on up, hold your position and think about these hands, yeah? Such an important aspect. Don't forget about those fingers and those hands because actually that can enhance or make or break the move, yeah? It really can. If you can, get those fingers long and get those fingers making the movement with you, just as equally important. Okay. So we've just done the single showperson. Let's do the double, all right? So again, think about your stance first. You might want to have a split stance. You might want to have a closed stance. It's up to you. You might need to play around with them. But the next one is to take it up into a double. So quite simply, we take it sort of down through the body. We come up, and we're now both arms. Yeah? Now, if you're coming to the end of a routine or the end of a performance, then what you might actually be doing is just holding up and just staying in one position. You might be looking away, you might be looking over your shoulder. You might actually come up and take it straight towards your audience. You might glare straight towards them, okay? It might be that you're creating a cluster of moves. So as part of your move, you might be sort of turning around from having faced away, and then coming up, and then bring it back down again, yeah? But this is what we would call a double show person. And it's also what we would call a power pose. So you've got your single, power posing, you've got your double, power posing. Yeah? Single and double. Okay, so the next one we're going to move on to is the Betty. Okay, now with burlesque, we always laugh and joke that it's about boobs and bum, boobs and bum, boobs and bum, okay? And the Betty kind of leads nicely into that, because when you're doing a Betty, what you are looking to do is lift those shoulders up and back and tip that tailbone so that you can nicely glide into that move. Now what's really important with the Betty is that you hold your core strong so that your spine doesn't overarch or feel strained in the move, and that you also think about your knees and you protect your knees both on the transition down and the transition up. On the transition up, you particularly also need to include thinking about your back, okay? This is one of them moves that you can use it as a power pose and you can use it as movement. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. And that's something you'll learn as you go through and start to progress in the world of burlesque. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Yeah? And I'll give you a prime example with this Betty. With the Betty, what we're looking to do is just take our hands, lift those shoulders back, tilt that bum back, and we're looking to just and come back up again. Yeah? So remember, these are power poses. So say you were sort of getting ready for a photo, or you were sort of putting yourself in position for a nice little photo shoot. You would get yourself into position, hold, and then come back up again. If you're creating it as part of movement, that Betty has a lot of potential. You can come down here, but you can also come all the way down to the floor, because then you've got a cluster of other moves that can follow on. But we have to be careful about how we look getting back up. And this is where I say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's all well and good dropping all the way down to the floor, but if you're the sort of person that's then going to be like, coming back up again, that's a really, really wasted move. It would be much more beneficial to come down just a short distance and then come back up and look just as glam than if you're trying to go all the way down and then be like, you know? So remember, always remember that phrase. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, how you present it, how you carry it off. So when you're doing things like the Betty, make it a progressional thing. Please look after your knees, yeah? Think about the muscles attached around the knees and how strong they are and how you're working them. And think about your back, okay? Because at no point when we're doing stuff like that should we then be rounding off our backs to come out. What we should be doing is keeping a nice strong lift, coming down and then coming back up. Now there's two ways to do a Betty, okay? I'm going to start getting technical with you now. So I hope I don't lose you. When you do a Betty, going down is always the same. But when you come up, there's two ways to come up. You can come up using your quads, so these big muscles at the front of your legs, okay? Or you can come up with a tabletop lift where you're actually changing the stance of the movement and you're using the backs of your legs, okay? So let me just show you what I mean by that. A standard Betty, we slide down, we engage those leg muscles and we just simply push back up again, okay? And that core impact of the move is going to be on those fronts of the legs. And that doesn't matter whether we're just here or whether we're all the way down. If we're coming all the way back up again with our shoulders high, the main movement and the force of the movement will come from the quads. If we're going for a tabletop lift up, what that can do is that can take the pressure off of the knee joint, okay? And the reason why I teach you this is not to bore the hell out of you, it's because some people do obviously have delicate knees, arthritis, and we just want to make sure that we're giving options available to everybody. So when you come down into a Betty, but you come up through a tabletop lift, you're taking the pressure off of the knee joint and you're taking the force of the movement away from the front of the legs and the knees to more the backs of the legs. So now let me show you what I mean. A Betty, we've gone down. I'm now going to lift my tailbone, drop my shoulders a little bit, yeah? And I'm now pushing up from the backs of my legs. Once I'm up, I'll then roll my shoulders up as well. So I've now changed that Betty move. I've done from a Betty down, Betty up, to a Betty down, and a tabletop lift up. I've taken the pressure off of my knees. I've changed the core movement from the fronts of my legs to the backs of my legs, okay? And I've changed how I lead that move up. So now let me show you again, and I'll show you them back to back so you can see. Standard Betty, sliding down, keeping that chest tall, sliding up. Quads do all the work. Betty to tabletop, slide down, tip the shoulders, lift the tailbone, yeah? Then roll the shoulders. The force of the move, backs of the legs. But again, it's really important we look after those backs. What we don't want to do from that is then hunch and start changing the impact on our spine, okay? So there you go, that's your Betty move for you. I hope that makes sense, and like I say, I wanted to give you both options at one, because then you've got two different moves there of foundation of movement. You've got a power pose, okay, but you've also got some adjustments should you need them if you find that something like that just is too much for your knees. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So now we're going to look at some single and some double leg strokes, alright? So, we're going to start with a nice easy one, the single one. And with this, all you're simply doing is taking your stance, you're taking one of your legs out to the side, you're bringing the arm up like you would have done with your single show person. But then you're folding through your waist, down your leg. Now, as you fold, you actually fold just ever so slightly forward, okay? Because what you don't want to do is tear yourself on the opposite side. So you actually tip ever so slightly forward. You come down, you reach for your toes, and then you stroke up with purpose, yeah? We're not tickling each other here. It's not a tickle, yeah? You want to do it, and you want to do it with purpose. Because what did I say? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Do it with purpose. So let me show you that again. Get your stance. Take one of the legs out to the side. Bring yourself up into your single show person. Come down, slightly lean forward, stroke and drag. Yeah? Always complete your move. So if you're working on a limb, go to the bottom if you can and come all the way up. Don't just stop at your knee and then lift. Make sure you complete that move. If you can't quite get down to your ankle, there's no problem. That's something for you to work up towards. You'll just come down and you'll come forward as far as you possibly can. And then wherever you start, then you'll deliver the rest with purpose. Okay? So I'm going to just turn to the side so you can see what I mean by that slight tip forward, in hope that, that explains it well enough for you. Because what we do need to do is keep our backs nice and strong, keep our core nice and strong, and we want to keep the legs straight, particularly the leg that we're stroking up, yeah? We want to keep a nice, strong presence about ourselves. That way we've got less inclination to be wobbling and sort of falling all over the place. We want to protect our bodies. So we're in our position, we take the leg out to the side, yeah? We bring ourselves up into that single show person. We fold slightly forward, down to the limb, and then we stroke up with purpose. And bring ourselves up through the rest of the move, okay? So that's your single leg stroke, and we've attached that on from the single show person. Okay, so I'm now going to take you into the double leg stroke. Now, like with anything, you can change up the direction that you do this in, and just to help you get a view of that, I will do it in 3 directions. So I'll do it facing you, I'll do it on side, and I'll do it facing away. Now, one thing you must always remember is when you're facing away, if you were thinking about performances, if you're thinking about audiences and stage presence, you've got to try and make sure you're keeping that engagement up with your audience. So I'll show you some little tips and tricks for that as well as we go. So with the double leg stroke, what we're doing, I'll turn to the side first to start with. We're getting both legs slightly wider than hip width apart, okay? We're sort of, you can do it from a double show person, or you can do it from something else, but let's do it from the double show person to practice what we've been learning. So we'll bring ourselves up into the double show person. We'll then fold forward, keeping our tailbone lifted, yeah, so boobs and bum, keeping our tailbone lifted and our chest strong as we come down. You'll then stroke up through the legs, lifting your head as you go, and you'll come up through both legs, okay? Now this can be done on the outer legs, or it could even be done through the inner legs. And you bring it up, bring it up, bring it up with purpose, okay? So your double leg stroke, exactly the same as your single, but you're doing both at the same time, all right? But you've also got options of whether you go on the outer part of the leg or the inside of the leg. Keep a strong stance about you, lift that tailbone, and as you're folding, keep that upper body nice and strong, yeah? Don't allow yourself to collapse as you go down. Keep that tailbone lifted. Keep the knees slightly soft so you don't lock the knees out, yeah? Tailbone lifted, knees soft, chest strong so you're protecting your core and your spine. Fold from the hips, so even if you're coming up from your double show person, fold forward, and then either on the inner or outer, or play with it, bring yourself up, 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 up through the body. Okay, so I've shown you what that would kind of look like from a side and a front point of view. Now let me turn it around and show you the rear version, but also from an audience engagement point of view. Because, like I said to you before, when we've got our backs turned to the audience, we always still need to keep audience engagement in the backs of our minds and kind of keep it checking in from time to time, okay? So if I was going to be doing something where my back's turned to the audience, so let's look at the double leg stroke, yeah? So I might be coming up, I might be folding, but then as I come up through my legs, I might kind of look over my shoulder towards my audience. I've still got both my hands running up, but I'm kind of trying to bring my glance and my vision back towards the audience, okay? So let me show you that again. I'm away from the audience. They're just about to have my butt in their face. I come up, I fold forward, I come up through my stroke, but as I start to lift up a little bit, once I feel my neck's in a position to, I'll start to re-engage with my audience and kind of take my glance in their direction, okay? If you wanted to make it more cheeky, if your neck's not very sort of good at that, or if that felt like too much of a strain, you could make it into more of a cheeky move. So you can come down, come up, give them a little wiggle, and then as you come up, re-engage with them, yeah? Have a little wink as you come up. So, there you go, a couple of moves to play with, core foundation of moves. You've got the single leg stroke, the double leg stroke, and we are thinking about body posture, body positioning, looking after our bodies, and also thinking about audience engagement and you know, not forgetting about them when we're completely turned away. So have a little play with those, and then I'll see you for the next bit. Okay, so this little module is going to be a little bit more cheeky and a little bit more sassy, okay? So now we're talking about making things a little bit less serious, a little bit more sort of like, you know, presentable and modest and coy, and we're going with a little bit more cheek and sass now. So we've got the upper body, we've got the rear, okay, and I'm also going to speak to you about your lips. Now I'm going to start with the lips one because it's one I absolutely love. Some people go, oh, you know, and it's not their favourite thing on the menu, but that's the one I'm going to lead with because I love it and I think it can be really, really impactful. Now for this I'm going to come in a little bit closer to you because you don't really need to see my feet for this one, but you do need to see my face. So the lick lip, okay, again these can be used for sort of like bridging. So if you're putting a performance together or a routine together, sometimes you need something where you can kind of catch your breath or take a moment or fill a few beats in a track, and we would have what we call bridging moves. So something that's quick and quirky, funny and sassy, that we can kind of do without too much effort and stress. So this is the lip lick, and I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration. Yeah? So that is taking your tongue and your, you know, your glare, your eyes, and taking it away and around the body. So it doesn't matter which side you start on, you know, we all have sort of preference that we might go to first. But what you're doing is you're taking that tongue, especially if you're somebody like me that's always liking to have sort of big, bold, bright lipstick on. You're taking that tongue and you're taking it right around the lips in a meaningful manner, because remember, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So you're going to take that tongue from one side to the other, okay, and you're going to take your glaze with you and take your eyes with you in the move, okay. Again, you might make it a little bit quicker, so you might capture somebody's eye in the audience. You might sort of pick on somebody in the audience and sort of, you know, catch them and be like, yeah. You might just take it across the room, depending how much time you're needing to use or how much time you're needing to bridge. So it might be more slow, yeah? But either way, it needs to be impactful. you'll find that once you start doing that, and especially if you do it fairly frequently, you will always have a chapstick or a lip seal or whatever you call it, lip balm, in your bags. Okay? And don't forget your lippy to reapply it as well. So that there is the lip lick. So now I'm just going to take a step back and I'm going to take you on to the upper body. All right? So we have always got a shimmy and a shake to keep us going, to keep us cheeky, to keep us sassy, and these are brilliant for, like I say, needing to fill some gaps, needing to fill a few beats in a routine, and just kind of getting with the whole burlesque ethos really. And there are a series of ways that you can do this. So you can just go for a standard shimmy where you're kind of just pinning those shoulders back, and the movement comes from the shoulder, okay? You're not kind of going like that. You're kind of pinning yourself back, and it's like a short wiggle, yeah? A short shimmy, all right? You can get really strong with your shimmy, so you can come forward and come back, or you can lean forward and then sort of move off, all right? But you've got the short shimmy here. You can go really big with your shimmy, but what you are looking to do is keep those shoulders pinned back and let the movement come from the shoulders, okay? Now, some of you may be saying, I don't really have anything there to shake. You know, people will say all sorts, all right? But remember, it's the movement itself. This isn't about, you know, sizes of chests or what's not there or anything like that. It's about creating the movement. So it's about sort of having a bit of confidence of just, it shouldn't matter what is here. It's not about that. It's about creating presence and owning your stage, owning your body, owning your performance. So, you know, don't get het up or kind of blinkered or closed-minded or down on, well, what's going on up here. Focus on the move, yeah? The move will sell it. For those of you that are in a position to, what you could also look at is what we call the boob jiggle, all right? So moving aside slightly from the shimmy, you could get a little bit more purposeful, where you do take your hands at the side of your chest and you kind of get into somebody's face a little bit more, you're leaning into the audience a little bit more, and you're a little bit more, yeah? Audience engagement, bridging gaps, bridging beats in a track, bridging your performance, okay? Quick 2-3 seconds. Yeah? So you've got your shimmy, and then you have got your boob jiggle, okay? And with that, you are predominantly coming in out from the outside, because then you can kind of scoop it all on up, and you've got control over that, okay? So, shimmy, the boob jiggle, and then we're going to go for this bit here. Okay? Never underestimate the power of your butt. You can do so much with it. So, with your slaps, you can make them individual, yeah? So you could just be literally doing something and then all of a sudden go and give yourself a cheeky slap. You could add it into your moves. So prime example that we do fairly often is a leg stroke with a slap. So it'll be a stroke and a slap, yeah? So it's almost like, and I'll show you from the side here, we've sort of put ourselves with our leg forward, so the leg that's perhaps facing the audience. We'll fold down, we'll come up with a stroke, like we're priming it, yeah? And then as we get there, we're like, okay? So it's like slow and steady, slap, yeah? The stroke and the slap. You can also do caressing. So you can do it where you're kind of stroking the move. You can roll the hips with it, yeah? You don't have to just stand. You can stand. You could even lead off to the slap from the stand. So you could be stroking and give it a cheeky slap. You could be rolling your hips, give it a cheeky slap. All right, just other examples of little bridging moves and little cheeky things that you can do when you're thinking about the world of burlesque and you're thinking about building those core foundations and building those basics of your skill set to then move forward. Guys, so this next move that we're going to go through is called the peep. Alright, now with the peep, you can kind of do it standing or from sort of like a Betty position, or it's something you can drop down to the floor and do. What's really important here is you think about the joints in the body and you also think about your back and your tummy whilst you're going through this move, okay? So if you are a little bit delicate in your joints, particularly in the knee area or the lower back, then what I would suggest is that you do this more upright first and then work on progressing lower and lower and lower to the ground, okay? So, in case you kind of haven't guessed what it looks like, it is kind of taking the knees, spreading them, you know, out to the audience or out to the side and bringing them back in again, yeah? The peep. So it's like a peekaboo, yeah? So, let me take you through the teaching points and then let me show you the progressions up and down. Now, sometimes you'll hear me say throughout this course and other courses and some of our routines, it's really not what you do, but it's how you do it that either makes or breaks it, okay? And this is especially one of those moves. So let me take you through the teaching points first, and then I'll show you what I mean with regards to that comment. So with the peep, okay, like I say, what you're looking to do is you're looking to take your hands into the knees, part the knees, yeah, so it's like a peekaboo, and then close the knees again. Now, obviously you can't do this from a complete stand, straight position. You've either got to sort of lean in from the hip area, yeah, so from the hip crease, and you've got to lean in, take the knee, do a peep, and then close and come up. But the best way to do it is from a Betty, which we learned earlier on in the course, yeah? So with the Betty, what we're doing is we're squatting from the hip area and the knee area, so we're coming down into the knees. So from that position, yeah, from that Betty position, we're then just going to peep, close, stroke back up again, all right? So you do want to kind of drop down. I'll do it from a side angle now. You do kind of want to still tip that tailbone back, keep that chest lifted, keep that tummy and that back strong. Come down into your Betty, quick peep, come up, stroke through, yeah? And that's what we call the peep. But you might remember it as a peekaboo, yeah? That might be your easiest way to remember it. Whatever works for you, go with it. So just remember, when you're doing that, you've got to be soft in the joints area. You really do need to keep the chest lifted, because if you lean forward too much and you're here, as you're kind of opening and closing, you might find yourself starting to wobble where your balance distribution is not quite centred, okay? So if you can, keep that body nice and tall, let the fold come from the hip crease, yeah, and the knee joint. Come down, when you're in position, keeping that body strong, peep, close, come up again. So like I said to you, you can actually take this right down to the floor, and then you can use the peep to lead in and out of different moves as well. And I won't get overcomplicated right here, because this is just an introduction, it's a beginner's workshop for burlesque, yeah? So I won't overcomplicate it, but I just want to give you some ideas and some examples. So when you're doing the peep, once you can do it sort of in a nice Betty position, without kind of wobbling all over the place, what you can look to do is progress further and further and further until you're sort of fully squatted onto the floor. So you could then look to take it a bit further down, peep, come back up again, yeah? Or you can take it all the way down to the floor, where you're literally squatting, peek there, close, not what you do, it's how you do it. Because there is no point trying to get further down to the floor if when you come up you're like, oh my God, because you can't quite get into the quad muscles enough to push yourself up and engage that core without kind of struggling and straining, yeah? Likewise with the back, if you're coming down and you're pushing up and you're having to push down onto your knee joints to push yourself up, firstly, you could injure your knees, which we don't want you to do, but secondly, it just doesn't look very good. So you need to practice carrying the body correctly first, and then progress into the lower transition to the floor if that's where you want to go with it. But I promise you, it looks just as pretty, if not more, even when you're just here, yeah? That looks so much more elegant and tasteful and classy than trying to like, you know? So remember, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And this one, yeah, tailbone tipped, chest lifted, okay? Engage that core as you're coming up and work to progress yourself lower and lower into the floor if that's where you want to go with it. So again, without going overcomplicated, let me just give you an idea of some of the moves that you can do in or out of that peep, which you might see in routines, certainly some of our routines, or from a performance point of view. So when you're coming down from the peep, sometimes what people do is come down, they spread, but then they'll close one leg off to the side and then come up through the body. Remember, it's always important to finish your moves, yeah? Moves should lead onto each other, or they should bring you to sort of like a stance or a holding position, okay? So don't forget these hands, don't just leave them hanging, high and dry, yeah? Looking like a spare part. Finish your move, okay? I'll show you that again. So it's coming down, doing your peep, and then we close off to the side, and we lift up through the body, okay? Another one can actually be using the peep to allow us to drop down onto the floor. Now, one of the workshops that we run, which is quite popular, it's not a burlesque one, but it's the Magic Mic Grinding workshop, which you can go and have a look at later if you want to. But we use the peep to lead into the floor drop, because when we're on the floor getting ready to grind, we need those knees wider than closed, or just wider than hip width apart. So we use the peep to allow us into that position. So let me quickly show you an example of that one. So with that one, we would go down into the peep, spread it, and then we would drop it. Yeah? So now you can start to see how all of these moves can start to interlink into each other. Alright? So with the peep, like I say, if you just want to stay at a high level, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you're really lifting up through that body, holding onto that core, looking after that spine, and protecting those knee joints. And if you're wanting to take it further down into the floor, build it up, okay? And then make sure when you are getting to that lower level, engage that core even more so, lift up through the body, yeah? Don't over tip, and push up from those quads. Don't push into those knee joints, okay? So there you go, the peep. You'll do it on the chair, without the chair, in and out of routines, in and out of performances, in and out of workshops. It's something you'll see quite often, so I hope you have fun practicing it. I'll see you for the next bit. What we've done is we've covered some power poses, we've covered some movements, and we've covered some cheeky sassiness, okay? What we're now going to do is move on to actually movement around the room or movement around the stage, so the walking part. Now you can do this with or without a boa type garment, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab my garment and then I'll come and see you for the next module, which will be walking. Okay guys, so on to the next module where we're going to be looking at walking and movement, alright? Now if you've got props are really good to enhance this and make it look a little bit less dull, a little bit less boring. You can glam it up, alright? But you can simply do it without. So if you want to practice without any garments first or without any sort of scarf or boa first, you can absolutely do that, and then you can add it in when you're ready. But what we're going to be particularly looking at is walking and the movement of the walk, alright? What we never want it to look like is we're trudging down the high street or that we're out doing our weekly grocery shop. We want it to look a little bit more elegant. We want it to look a little bit more presented, okay? So I'm going to give you 2 ideas to work with from a walking point of view. So I'm just going to come back a little bit, alright? But what you can do is you can slow down your walk and you can kind of just walk, 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 walk. Now the way you walk is the movement of the feet. So I don't know if you noticed at the beginning, I was stepping and I was turning out my toes a little bit, yeah? So I was stepping, turning out my toes, but I was turning my shoulders and my head with that as well. You can also take the legs slightly across each other, yeah? So you'll kind of come across, and then across, and then across. So what you're doing with your movement is rather than just, yeah, you're slowing it down, you're making it more purposeful, and you're creating more of a stage present and a different kind of movement, yeah? So let's go through those again. So at first you'll probably overthink it, and you might find it's really, really awkward. If you've got heels, great, definitely time to chuck them on, it might make it a little bit easier. If not, practice without the heels and then maybe add them in when you're ready. So when you're walking, like I say, you can turn the feet away slightly, but create the movement in your body whilst you do that. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, if you're trying to walk with just your feet turned out, you're kind of going to look a little bit, yeah, like you've got something between your legs that you're trying to hold on to or avoid, alright? So create the movement in the body. You can turn the feet out and step. Repeat the same, repeat the same, repeat the same. You can turn the feet out and just glide through the movement. You can take the legs across, yes? Rather than step and turning out, you sort of naturally just step across the body. So you're kind of keeping those knees quite close together. So you'll sort of step, 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 yeah? So you're creating a different kind of movement. And once you build up confidence, you will find that you'll just move a little bit quicker as you go. You'll start to sort of mix and match them both up, yeah? You'll come across, and you'll move with a little bit more confidence, and you won't need to quite go as slow, but whilst you're building it up, don't be afraid to really slow it down and practice, okay? Think about where you're placing your feet, where your shoulders are going as you move, where your head's going as you move, all right? So that's what we would call the glide. I'm now going to show you the drag, okay? So what we're doing with our feet is we're kind of stepping, but with the back leg, we're almost dragging that back foot before we then carry on. Drag, step, drag, step, drag. So you are dragging the toe along the floor. And if you haven't got any shoes or dancing shoes, heels or anything like that at the moment, you may find that your big toe gets a little bit sore, especially if you're on carpet. So just watch out for that, okay? Don't overdo it. But let's go through that again. So this is the step and drag, yeah? So Again, I'm just going to hold this up so it's not covering my legs, but you'll kind of step, drag, step, drag, step, drag, step, drag, yeah? So you're kind of dragging that back foot. This isn't particularly a move that you would speed up with. It doesn't quite have the same impact, yeah? If you start sort of like, you then sort of look like you're doing a bit of that. And that's kind of not the look we're going for here. We're looking for a bit of coyness, yeah? A bit of snootiness, a bit of snobbery, a bit of presence about us. So we don't want it to look like that something's going on wrong there, yeah? So this isn't one that we would speed up particularly, all right? So just think about, and again, this helps because if you've got a garment that you're sort of playing around with, you don't overthink the feet as much, you just kind of get on with it. You just start to get your flow. So once you've got your steps, bring your garment into place and just think about swishing it around, moving it around, flicking it, swinging it, throwing it over your shoulder, yeah? So you're sort of step, drag, yeah? And then you might carry on away from the audience. All right? So, something so simple that we do every day, walking, and I'm now going to make you stop and think about it, and you're going to be like, what? Some of you will pick it up really, really quickly and really easily. Some of you won't. You'll need a bit more time, and that's absolutely okay. Think about your flooring, think about your footwear, and look after your big toes, especially when it comes to the step and drag, all right? So, there you go. We've got some walking and some movement, and don't forget, bring in your garment if you can, when you can, and that will just help you create a nice flow, a nice bit of sort of, yeah, presence about you, and it will help you take your mind off of just your feet and help you sort of create more of a movement and a presence rather than just what your feet's doing. Good luck with that. When we move on to the next section, we're going to be looking at prop removal. So you will definitely need your gloves and your hold-ups and your chair for the next bit. I'll see you for the next. Okay, so this little module is going to be on glove removal. Now guys, I'm going to give you 3 types of glove removal options for you to play around with, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then, you know, work with. So the first one is going to be nice and easy, okay, and it's going to be a reverse removal. So what we're looking to do is actually take the glove off from, you know, the ends, the openings, okay? So it's a nice and easy one, nice beginner friendly one, and then I'm going to move you on, and then we're going to finish with a mouth removal, which is actually my favourite. So let's first of all look at the reverse removal. So what we would be doing is we'd be dancing, we'd be doing our moves, whatever we are doing, yeah? And then what you're looking to do is bring yourself across at some point, and you're going to use your opposite hand, so the hand that you're not going to be removing the glove from, and you're going to hook that finger into the end of your glove, okay? And then what you're going to do is, while you're continuing your movement, because you never want to stand stagnant, you're then going to take that glove off, job done. Now, if you really want to take things to the next level, it's how you release that glove that can make the difference, okay? So, you can do a couple of options as a suggestion. You can do a nipple polish, nipple tease, yeah? You can take it in one of your hands or the other, and you can swing it around. You can also Be a little bit dismissive, a little bit coy with the move. All right? And that is a reverse removal. So let me go through that again on the other arm. What we're doing is we're dancing, we're doing our moves, or we might just be here in front of the audience, okay? We're going to bring the arm across the body. As we're stroking through, we're going to hook one of our fingers or a couple of our fingers in the end of the glove. Yeah, can you see that? Am I close enough for you? You're going to hook your fingers, so as you're stroking, you're going to hook your fingers into the glove. You're then going to keep the body moving as you slide the glove down. And then if you really kind of want to add a little extra on, you can do a bit of a nipple polish and tease. Yeah? You can swing it round your head and throw it out to the audience. Or you can simply be dismissive and just drop it to the side. And there we have it. That is your reverse glove removal. Let's get those back on and let's look at the next one. Okay, are you gloved back up again now? Now we're going to go for the ruffle removal. Now the key to this is, once you've got your gloves on, is you need to do the pinch test. So you need to pinch the very tips of your fingers so that you've got a tiny, tiny little bit of space between your nail and the stitching of the glove, okay? And that is the key here. So once you've got your gloves on, before you start performing, before you start your routine, before you start whatever you're doing, you would put your gloves on, pull them right up your arms, and then you would do the pinch test at the end and just make sure you can get a nail sort of between the end of your finger and the stitching, all right? So it might even make your fingers look a little bit longer. With the ruffle removal, what we're doing is we're sliding the glove down and then pulling off, okay? So you would use your fingers to start the pull, and then you're kind of ruffling the gloves down, 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 and then you're taking the fingertip, and it doesn't matter which finger, and you're continuing the rest of the move. So when you've got two gloves on, the ruffle removal can be a little bit harder because they just slip on the material. So quite often what we will do in a performance is, if we're going to do a ruffle removal, is we will do the first hand either with a reverse or a mouth, and then the second hand with a ruffle. So you've got two different moves there, okay? Because like I say, otherwise when you've got two gloves on, that ruffling takes forever because it's just sliding down the material. But we're going to crack on and show you what that looks like anyway, okay? So with the ruffle removal, again, you might be dancing, you might be sort of doing some moves, whatever you're doing, you'll then take the end of your finger, and I always say focus on the three middle fingers, and you're going to pinch, pinch, pinch. You're then going to come back, you're going to start the stroke, so you'll sort of play around with the arm, okay? Then you'll come through the hand, take one finger, and then you'll drag, drag, drag. And then like before, you can do some options, yeah, or you can simply dismiss. So you saw with both gloves on, that glove didn't really move down my arm very much. So I was then relying on a stronger pull to take the glove off. So now we're going to do it with one on and one off, and you can see the difference, okay? So again, we'd be dancing, we'd be moving, yeah? We'll come down the hand, we'll give the glove a little pull, all right? And then if we need to, we'll come back up the arm again, give it another stroke, but you can see, even that first stroke, my glove was more than happy to slide down my arm. And then I was able to simply straight from there, pull it and work it off my hand, yeah? So let me show you that again on that one, because like I say, it's much, much easier to do a ruffle removal when one glove is already off. So we're out dancing, doing whatever we're doing, yeah? The arm comes across. As we're sliding the hand down the arm, we're dragging the glove down, through the hand to the tip of our finger, and then we pull, 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 and then we kind of create whatever finish we want to go for, and we dismiss. Okay? So we've done the reverse removal, the ruffle removal. We're going to get dressed one more time and we're going to do the mouth removal. Here we go. Okay guys, so hope you've got your gloves back on again. We're now going to go for the mouth removal. Alright, now some people aren't keen on this one because it does mean putting the gloves in your mouth, sort of particularly around the teeth. Alright, if you have got lipstick on, think about the colour of your gloves, think about your lipstick, because obviously again, you know, especially like I wear quite bright red lipstick, but it can sort of, you know, create a bit of a mark down in your chin or below your lip where you're biting and sort of dragging your glove. So think about all those things. Although if you're on a big stage in front of people, I don't imagine for 1 minute they're going to see a tiny little lipstick mark close up to your chin. But things to think about, alright? So with the mouth removal, again, like from the ruffle removal, we need to always make sure we've done the pinch test. So we get our gloves on, and the main focus is the 3 centre fingers, but we always just do it for all 5 fingers, just to make the glove look even, and in case we need to go for a backup plan, alright? So we do the pinch test. Now, it doesn't matter what glove removal we're doing. As I said to you before, we never just stand there and do it, yeah? That just kind of takes away the stage presence, the movement. It looks flat. So we're always either moving our hips, yeah? Or for this particular one, we can also integrate our Betty. So that's another thing we can integrate. So let me just show you the basic first. What you're doing is you're taking your glove and again focusing on the main 3 centre fingers. You're bringing the glove up to your mouth, you're putting the tip of it in your teeth and doing a little tug. Nothing strenuous, okay, because you want to get it as a performance. You don't want it to be over in the blink of, you know, an eye. You want to kind of make it a bit of a performance. So you bite, 1, little pull, 2, little pull, 3, little pull, then you just pick on one of your fingers. I generally go for the middle one again, back to the centre for me, and then you take the glove fully off, release it from your mouth with purpose, and I always grab it so that it doesn't drop to the floor, okay? So that again, I can then swing it around, throw it out to the audience, bring it across my chest, you know, do whatever I want to do with it, but I never just bring it from my mouth and let it just fall on the floor, because chances are I'm going to be moving off my spot again, and I don't want to be slipping on that. So if you can avoid it, if you start to go out and creating some movement with this, don't allow it just to drop where you are. Chances are you're then going to slip over it in a bit, okay? So let's do that again, and I'll integrate the Betty a little bit more into that one now. So the pinch test has been done, we're good to go, yeah? We're then going to come through, we're looking at our audience. 1, 2, 3, and then the big one. And then up from there, I'm either going to swing or throw or do whatever I'm going to do with it, okay? So, with the mouth removal, you're just taking the tips of the glove through your teeth and you're just doing the tiniest little pull, yeah, to release, 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 focusing on your 3 middle fingers, and then go back to any of the fingers, take hold of it with your teeth in the glove, slowly pull the arm out, create a bit of, you know, purpose about that movement, and then make it the purpose of releasing the glove from your teeth just as sort of strong, yeah? So sort of make it part of the move. Don't just sort of open your mouth and let it fall out. Make it purposeful, yeah? Remember, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So make it purposeful, let it come out of the mouth with purpose, and if you can, avoid letting it just drop to the floor. Make sure your hand's there to grab it, and then finish the movement off with style, okay? So there you go. We've now done 3 types of glove removal, which you can use. A reverse removal, where we're insiding out, taking the glove off. The ruffle removal, where we're sort of sliding it down our arm and then pulling it off. The mouth removal, glove in the teeth, and then releasing that way. I hope you found that useful. Guys, I'm going to go and get my stockings on, and then when we come back, we're going to do the stocking peel removal. Grab your chair, grab your stockings, let's have some more fun. Okay guys, so on to the next module, stocking removal, okay? Now, some of you might wear stockings and hold-ups with a belt, you know, with the attachments. Some of you might not bother. And some of you will be with shoes on, some of you will be with shoes off. So I'm just going to try and cover all bases, okay? Firstly, let's talk shoes. When you're about to do any form of stocking removal, obviously you want to take your shoes off with purpose. So what you might do is bring yourself up into a V-sit, and with the foot, flick. What you need to make sure you do is kind of give them a little shove as they're coming off with your foot, because what you don't want them to do is just drop directly under your feet, because then when you come up, they're potentially going to be in your way, okay? So that is sitting in the V-sit, taking your toe into your ankle, and as you sort of drag it down, give it a little kick as you're pushing it off, okay? The other thing you can potentially do is take them off with your hand with purpose, okay? So what you might do is you might sit yourself down, you might sort of lean into your chair a little bit, do a leg stroke and sort of release with your hand, and then give them a little throw away. It really does depend on you, your body, what you're comfortable with, and, you know, making sure that you're not sort of straining your back or putting you in a position where you're kind of then like, my God, I've got to try and reach my foot and things like that, okay? So think about you, your body, how you sit in the chair, how you hold your upper body, how you look after your back, all right? So let me just show you that one again. So with that one, we would do some sort of leg stroke. So you could do a long leg stroke and then bring yourself down and sort of hook your finger in. Or you might just come up into a half sit, as if you're going into a secretary, stroke down your leg, hook your finger in, release, come up with a strong back, and then throw your shoe out the way. Okay? So that's your shoes. Let's quickly talk about suspender belts and things like that. Alright, if you are wearing a suspender belt, you need to factor that into your movement, because obviously you can't take off your stockings if they're still attached. So you kind of have to make it part of the move. So from a sitting down point of view, yeah, again, what you might do is do a leg stroke, and then as you come up, hold here, keep a nice strong back, don't allow yourself to slouch in your chair, hold a nice strong back, unclip, or create your whatever you need to do, or if you're ones that have got hooks in them, yeah, unhook and then release, okay? So you make the movement purposeful. Don't make it look like you're quickly trying to, unscrabble them so that nobody can see. Stay strong, make it part of the move, use your chair if you need to, or sort of bring the leg out, come down, come up, unhook the clip, and then bring the leg back in together. If you're standing, okay, and you're doing a movement where you're standing, just roll mine back up again. what you would do is you would put yourself in a nice strong position with your legs on the chair, and you would say, do a little bit of hip rolling, stroking your, glute area, your nice butt cheek area. And then what you would do is keep the hip roll going while you undo the strap, yeah? And release the strap that way. Again, likewise, if it's underneath, what you can do is you can stroke down the leg, look at the audience as you come back up, come into your leg, have a little wiggle whilst you're playing down here and undoing what you need to do, or while you're unhooking what you need to unhook. Think about your movement, try not to stay too stagnant, and unhook and unclip there. Lots of things that you can do, whilst you're trying to distract them from what you're doing down here. You could be blowing the audience a kiss, licking your lips, yeah, you can be doing all sorts. You could just simply be having a wiggle or creating a nice move, quick unhop with purpose, and then bring yourself back up again. So just make sure whatever you're doing, it has a place in your movement, or a place in your performance, or a place in your routine. Don't ever make anything look like you're just quickly trying to do something before anybody sees what you're doing. Make it part of the performance, make it part of the movement, make it purposeful, yeah? Okay, right, so the shoes are off, the suspender belts are undone. Let's crack on with the removals, okay? So I'm going to teach you 3 versions. I'm going to teach you 2 sitting down and 1 standing. So, let's do a sitting down one, where you can use your chair to support your upper body, okay? So what you might do is get yourself side on with your chair. Now I use my back hand as my safety hand, not only to sort of support my posture, but also to make sure that I don't get too sort of forward or back in my chair. So I'll lean back slightly. I might do a leg stroke. As I come up, I'm going to take my legs into a secretary seat, and I'm using my back hand to keep myself nice and lifted in my body posture. I'm then going to release that back hand, take my thumbs into the top bit of my stocking. I'm going to bring it up and under my knee, okay? I'm then going to take the hand that's closest to the back of the chair. I'm going to place it on the top of my knee, and with my remaining fingers, I'm going to drag the stocking down to my heel and towards my toes, and lift my toes towards me. I'm then going to release this hand, lift my body a little bit higher, extend my leg, and then I'm going to pull and bring it through in a nice longer move, okay? So I'm not rushing it, I'm not yanking it, I'm making it a tease and a purposeful movement. Let me show you that again on the other side, okay? So, we have just stroked our leg, we've come up into secretary seat, we've taken the hands, we've hooked over the knee with both hands. This hand then comes back just to support my body and my posture. This hand stays hooked in, and I drag it down towards my ankle and my toes, yeah? I then pull, 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 ever so slightly, I'm barely moving. I then place my hand on the chair again for support. I push my leg long, and I pull it up and around my body, okay? I'm going to quickly get dressed, and then I'm going to show you another one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another one where we actually just keep the foot closer to the floor. So we would start off the same. We would do our leg stroke, come up into our secretary seat. We would take the fingers in the ends of the stocking and bring it over the knee, okay? What I would then do is place my hands back on my chair so that I've got my body supported. I bring my foot down to the floor, and as I do, I bring the stocking with me. So as I'm lowering my foot from here to here, I'm also lowering my hand down towards my ankle, okay? Like we did previously, I'm then just going to drag it round my toe, okay? And then I'm going to pull, 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 and bring it out with the arm lifting behind me, okay? So that my body posture is still supported and I'm just focusing on moving the arm as opposed to the leg as well. Let me show you that on the other side. So, just to recap that again, we would do a leg stroke, come up into secretary. Both hands the same, hook over and bring it over the knee. Place my hand back on the chair for support. As I bring my foot down to the floor, I also bring the stocking with me, yeah? So I'm sort of dragging it further down my leg as well. I then just hook it round into my toes, so I lift my toes to the ceiling so I can hook and pull. And then I sort of switch the direction of my hands and my toes, and I pull it up from behind and bring it out that way instead, okay? So that's another way for you to pull your stockings off using a sitting down format. Let's get dressed again and let's do the standing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the standing stocking removal. Now I actually find these easier, and I think a lot of people do, as long as you can keep your balance, okay? If you've got a really good core and really good balance, you could even move on to do this without any chair or any support whatsoever, okay? But maybe start with something first and build up from that. So what we would do is we would pop the leg on the chair. Now, as I said to you, we very rarely just be stagnant in what we're doing. So up here we might have a little hip wiggle as we're going, yeah? But what we're going to do is the same principle. We're going to take our fingers, hook it in on the top of the stocking. We're then going to have a little wiggle and work the stocking down to the heel, take it under the heel, and as we lift the toe, we're then going to take our back hand and support ourselves on the chair. With the hand that's still on the stocking, we're just going to bring that leg round to the side, use our chair for support. We're going to lift the leg behind and peel that stocking, bringing our arm behind us and up towards the ceiling. And I call it creating a bit of a swan movement, okay? So let me show you that again on the other side. So, what we've just done is leg up, take the fingers into the top of the stocking. We're going to work the stocking down to our ankle. Once we're there, we're going to lift the heel and take it underneath the heel. We're then going to take our hand on the back of the chair and lift our toe to release it past our toe. We're then going to take the leg out to the side, just using ourselves for a bit of support on the back of the chair. Lean forward, take the leg up behind you, lift that arm up and over the head, and then there's your stocking. And again, like before, okay, with the gloves, once that's off, you can do so much with this. You can again do some nipple teasing and playing. You can do some swinging around. You can do some dismissing. You can put the leg back on, yeah, and do a little bit more working out. It's up to you what you do from there on, but just try and avoid lifting and peeling and then just letting it effortlessly drop, okay? Make sure it's part of your movement. So there we go, guys. We have put lots of little mini concepts together. We've given you lots of basic foundations, okay, and lots of things to start with and then build up from there. What we're now going to do is pop a little routine together for you, try and incorporate most of that so that you can have a little go with a little mini routine, and then from there you could go on and try some more routines, or you could try another workshop. Hopefully see you soon.